All right, y'all. Welcome back. This is a no edition of Count the Bucket. I am the actual host this week. Michael is out due to personal reasons, but we are here today. This is Nick Andre. Glad to have y'all tuned in with us. I have a special guest with me, man. One of the writers for Unwrap, one of the analysts for Unwrap Sports, and numerous other websites. I got Lamar with me. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just glad to be on here again.
Definitely. Happy New Year to everybody that's tuned in. Definitely a lot more basketball to get right into, but with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. First topic. Um, Honestly, it's crazy, man, because when I when I originally saw this guy go to this team, I didn't know how he would be able to fit, but considering the season that he is having, he is fitting in very well with this team, and we are talking about DeMar DeRozan, who is an NBA vet. Um, coming into this new team in Chicago alongside Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, Nikola Vucevic, Kobe White, and the rest of these guys. I have DeRozan's stat line in front of me. Let me grab it. Before tonight's game against the Wizards, which he did hit another game winner, which he is the first player in NBA history to hit back-to-back game winners. DeRozan's averaging 26.8 points per game on 49% shooting, including averaging 29 points in the month of December. A few notable games that he has had. He had that 38-point game early in like I think I want to say early to mid December against the Lakers. A really good road win. And then also, obviously yesterday's game against Indiana where he scored 28, and then of course he hit the game winner, and then of course tonight against the Wizards where he hit another game winner in back-to-back games. So, considering the turmoil that's been around Chicago for the last month or so, being hit with the protocols, I want to say the majority of their team was hit with health and safety protocols and had to miss time. For them to even be a top seed in the East, even with everything that's went on, is kind of incredible to me. So I wanted to ask you, Lamar, do you see DeRozan as being an MVP candidate this year, or at least like top five?
Yeah, I got the best record in the East, and the way he's playing. The way he's playing, all his shots are mostly everything is inside the 3-point line. You only shoot like 2 threes a game, so everything is mid-range area and driving to the basket. And it's pretty amazing. Like I played like that. It seems like this year you finally fine tuned it and being more aggressive than he has in years past.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, just looking at his previous year, especially like in Toronto, I mean, he's always been known as like a mid-range scorer. But I don't know. I think this year's kind of elevated his game now. I mean, we obviously don't know him as being a 3-point threat, but even this year, he's kind of stepped outside and started to knock down more 3-pointers than usual. So I think going into this year, being able to elevate his game, which is very interesting to me because coming into this year, like I was expecting LaVine to be the guy, like to carry the load offensively, and then DeRozan be that second man, but throughout this year, it's really been DeRozan really having to take the charge and really leading the way. So I think that's just very impressive. So in my opinion, he is an MVP candidate. I tweeted it on my Twitter yesterday that he is an MVP candidate. Just looking at the season that he is having, I personally believe that this is his best season. I mean, I know people may be able to debate, his years in Toronto, and even last year when he was playing in San Antonio, he had a very underrated year. A lot of people thought that he should have been an All-Star.
Yeah.
But I think this year is no doubt he's going to be an all-star. And I want to say this is probably the first time he's ever been a MVP candidate. So, for DeRozan to have this type of year, especially like I said earlier, like, with all the turmoil, with so many of the Bulls players being hit with the healthy safety protocols, is just incredible. So, I don't know. It's just, for me, I'm just really excited to see what he's going to do next. I mean, he's already had back-to-back game winners, which is just incredible to me. So we'll just have to see what he has coming up next.
Becoming must-see TV. Who ever thought that of DeMar DeRozan being a
I
player you
know,
want to tune in and want to watch every night?
right? It's crazy to me, man. I'm gonna say it, but
Yeah.
but like I guess we could talk about the Bulls as a whole. Like, what have you been thinking of them? Obviously, with them being number one in the East, with everything going on, like, what have you seen in the rest of the Bulls team?
When they first came together, I was like, man, I don't know if all this is gonna fit, but it's fit nicely. Like, Levine had 35 points tonight, but the real key guy is Vucevic. He had 22 and 12 tonight. They got a inside presence now. rebound, and he can shoot from the outside. So I think the Bulls going to be in it for the long haul.
I hope so. Honestly, and you kind of hit the nail on the point though. Like, obviously you got the main guys, DeRozan and Zach LaVine, but it's really been other great role players. Like Lonzo's been a perfect fit for this team. Just being the initiator, being the point guard that he is, and then also bringing that energy defensively. Kobe White being back also gave them another boost. Alex Caruso, in my opinion, has been one of their best defensive players on the team. Yeah. So, just that Bulls team overall, like when you look at this team, like this team shows championship DNA. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they're in that same conversation. Maybe. I mean, I know they're the 1 seed, but I don't know if they're in that same conversation to possibly beat a Milwaukee or beat a Brooklyn in the playoffs. But I can definitely say that it is possible. But for a team to be able to get off to a good start like this early in the year, it just shows that coming into the postseason, like they'll be fun and like they'll be made for like that playoff atmosphere.
Yeah.
But definitely, like I said, DeRozan is definitely my one of my top MVP candidates. I'll have him up there with guys like Steph, KD, Jokic, and then Giannis, honestly. And then it's debatable with other guys as well, but DeRozan's definitely up there in my eyes.
Yeah, my eyes too.
But, we've already gotten into DeRozan. We're going to go into another guy who has been also killing it in his 19th season, which is the one and only LeBron James. The Lakers are still struggling. They did get a big win last night against Portland, which was a huge win considering the bad loss that they had against the Grizzlies. LeBron is killing it. He's averaging 28.7 rebounds and 6 assists. He's had 30+ points over the last 7 games. And then of course including that 43-point monster game against Portland yesterday. So with him just now turning 37 years old and having this type of season is just incredible to me. I mean, obviously it may not mean anything to many people just because the Lakers are, kind of still trying to figure things out. But what have you seen from LeBron that's really impressed you?
It's still got the athleticism after 19, 20 years in the league. Still fast, still can jump, and his outside shooting the last week or so has been on point. He's been very, like he said after the game yesterday about he's taking a lot of shots, but taking a lot of shots more than he normally would take. But he said he's efficient, so that's why he's taking a lot more shots. And it's just his 3-point shooting the last 2 games has been outstanding. It's just he's trying to just like will his team back into have a winning record.
Right. And that's the thing too, though, is like, to me, I don't know, like it kind of reminds me of like that 2017-18 season when he was with the Cavs, when the team was struggling. They had guys like D-Wade, they had Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, a few other guys as well. And the team had gone off to like a really slow start. Obviously, they had a few injuries, but they also had a lot of age on them as well, which is kind of similar to this team now. The Lakers, that has guys up there in age, and obviously different lineup rotations. AD's missed games, and a few other guys as well. And you're just seeing a LeBron that's in attack mode offensively when in which honestly he has to. Yeah. And coming into this year, I didn't expect him to have this type of year just because he is in year 19, and I would expect him to take a back seat, especially considering that, when the playoffs come around, considering that this Laker team is a championship team, whether, people believe it or not, that they will want to like reserve LeBron going, or at least coming into the postseason where they'll need him at 100% and ready. So, obviously, with this Laker team, the state, like the state that this team is in, the Lakers have really needed LeBron to have these type of monster games. And it's showing. I mean, obviously, Westbrook's still trying to figure out his groove, I'm still kind of iffy on whether those two can actually coexist on the floor, because when you look at Westbrook's game is built off of athleticism. So, whether like being able to score, being able to rebound, the only thing that's really not built off of athleticism is his playmaking. So, and we've seen it a few times, what I'm saying? Even like when he's on the fast break trying to go for a dunk, and then, he just ends up blowing a layup or blowing a dunk. So, that's definitely an adjustment. So I'm still kind of iffy on whether those two can coexist. But for LeBron to have, such a dominant showing so far, it's pretty impressive, I must say, especially being in his 19th year.
Yeah, showing no signs of slowing down.
That's true.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is crazy too. But
Yeah.
do you possibly see LeBron, continuing this hot streak going forward?
Probably for maybe a couple more games, but other players will have to start stepping up as well.
That's
Like
true.
I watched the game last night. I felt Westbrook played one of his best games last night. He wasn't forcing anything. He was getting teammates involved, and he was just playing under control. Sometimes I think Westbrook started missing a lot of them layups because he'd be moving too fast, and just need to relax and depend on his teammates and play like that. Play out the ball out yesterday. I saw Malik Monk bringing the ball up a lot yesterday. Malik Monk bringing the ball up the court a lot yesterday.
Yeah, that's interesting to me
I was
because
like, wow. I was like, whoa, they let him bring it up. It was like, and more than a few times too.
yeah, and that's the thing too, because
Yeah,
Monk is not a playmaker like
yeah,
whatsoever. Like he thrives off of athleticism as
yeah,
well, but then again he can also shoot. So for him to be bringing up the ball at the floor, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what kind of set they're trying to run in that particular play, but if it's working, cool. But if it's not, I'd rather
and
see either
yeah,
Westbrook or LeBron bringing that ball to the floor. But for Westbrook, it's just so tough though because
yeah,
you want these two to like figure it out, LeBron and Westbrook. But I mean, I think it's just so hard because both of them are so ball dominant. Like even like the past few years, like Westbrook's usage rate was like was
yeah,
up there, like at least being like one of the top in the NBA. So for him, or playing alongside another guy that's going to need the ball in his hands in order to be dominant, it's kind of difficult because I mean, at the end of the day, he's not playing alongside KD, where KD can really, work either way on or off the ball.
yeah,
LeBron. I mean, LeBron's a great scorer, but LeBron is not that type where where he's going to have to play off the ball. And then of course, with
yeah,
him, he's going to need the ball in his hands in order to be dominant. So
yeah.
it's kind of interesting though. But I mean, Westbrook's having the triple double, so it's like you can't be mad at him about it. But then again,
Yeah,
it's like
I
if
felt
it's
I felt that when LeBron came back from his injury and AD was there, Westbrook had about a good 3 weeks where he kind of like found his niche with them three on the
mm-hmm,
court. And I think when AD went out, he started pressing a little more, started trying to do too much again.
I
So
figure
and
that's
last yesterday he played. Yesterday he was looking to get his teammates involved, took high percentage shots, but it's just one game. The Lakers look good for one game, and they go lose the next two. So we'll see tomorrow when they play the
that's
Timberwolves
true.
if they can build off that performance last night.
I think I read a stat saying I can't remember the exact stat, but I think I read something that said the Lakers haven't won like three straight yet, or more than three
Yeah,
straight, or something like that.
yeah,
So I mean, it's crazy though. But for Westbrook, I mean, he's had these type of situations. When he was with the Rockets, I mean, I'm not gonna say he struggled with the Rockets, but
yeah,
obviously going or like playing alongside James Harden, which is not the same James Harden as he was when they were playing together. OKC, that was an adjustment,
yeah,
but as the season progressed, you saw him, being able to find that rhythm with him. I want to say he averaged like 27, 8, and 8 that year.
hmm,
And then of course last year with the Wizards, I mean, you could basically say that he single handedly carried them to the playoffs. Even though Bradley Beal was there, but
yeah,
Westbrook was the biggest
yeah,
difference maker for that Wizards comeback and for them to be able to make the playoffs. So maybe I don't know, maybe it's just that type of situation where he's in a new environment and he's going to have to try to find a way to coexist with the other guys around him. So
yeah,
like I mean, it's kind of like you said. I mean, like yesterday's game against Portland was a really good example of that. But we still have about 2 or 3 or 4 more months in the year to be able to turn things around. So I
yeah,
want to say the Lakers right now. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but I want to say they're the like the 6th or 7th seed. So they're
yeah,
obviously not playing too horrid to where they're not in like a
yeah,
playing position or anything. But obviously, with this team with LeBron, AD, and Westbrook, obviously there are high expectations. So hopefully, maybe I don't know. Hopefully, maybe in January. I'm not sure what the schedule looks like, but hopefully they can try to go on a run. AD is going to be expected to come back, which is weird because I read something earlier today saying that the Lakers are going to try and experiment both AD and LeBron at the 5 position. I don't know how exactly that's going to work, but
yeah,
I guess at this point you could try anything, especially when you have DeAndre Jordan that's not really playing that well and Dwight Howard who's not really getting a lot of minutes. So I
yeah.
guess at this point you can just experiment anything.
Yeah, they got to figure something out. Well, with them, honestly, man, the Lakers, it honestly all starts with the defensive effort. If
That's
they
true.
can, if they play good defensive effort, the offense and stuff will take care of itself. But a lot of games they done lost this year has been because of everybody like to say Westbrook. Westbrook get all that blame. Well, he turned the ball over a lot too, but a lot of it has been
That's
on the defense end. Man, they gave 130 some points to the Spurs, and
that's
it's like
true.
that can't happen.
Yeah, and that's a good point though, because it's like, we get it. Like, this is a whole new Laker team.
Yeah,
And they're gonna have their issues trying to find the chemistry with one another. But and you even saw it in that Christmas game against Brooklyn, like for the most part, there was just no effort getting back on defense. And I mean,
yeah,
even LeBron at times was lacking trying to get back on defense. And especially when you're the star player, it really starts with you being able to set the tone on that end. So when your team is down 20 and your best player is not getting down or getting back on defense, and I mean, of course the energy is not going to be the same with the other guys as well. So and also, I mean, this one of the last games against Memphis, which in my opinion, I didn't think I thought they should have never lost that game. I thought that was a
yeah. It's up
definite
by
bad pass.
they was up by 10. I went and put away some clothes. I came back and the game was tied. I was like, wow.
It's crazy. It's
They,
insane,
they
but
got. I don't know what the number is, but I heard during that Memphis game that the Lakers lead the lead in most 10-point blown lead losses. It's been at least a handful of times I done seen them up by 10 and they lost the game.
I'm not surprised by that at all if that stat is true, which is
Yeah,
crazy. But it's like, this Laker team, they definitely have the struggle. I'm not sure where they rank as far as defensive rankings, but I know they got to be super low because I even remember a game from I think it was like early November, like LeBron, AD, and Westbrook like all had like dominant double performances. They
yeah,
were going up against the Rockets, and like this was a Rocket team that was like 1-12 or whatever, and they only won by 2 points. I'm like, your three dominant players all have like 25, 27, 30 points, and you only win by two against a young Rockets team like that. Like that showed to me, like, what I'm saying, like that's just like terrible defense right there.
yeah,
Oh man, but I mean, obviously, I mean, like I said, I mean, LeBron is having a pretty solid or pretty good run, a pretty good stretch over these last 7 games. Will he keep it up? I'm not sure. I'm just hoping that he doesn't continue this, and then all of a sudden, a miraculous injury comes around because even you remember like a few months ago where when he was dominating, and then all of a sudden he had an injury, then it kept him sidelined for a few weeks. So
yeah,
this Laker team definitely cannot afford injuries. So I'm definitely happy, seeing LeBron being able to dominate. But being a year 19, you kind of have some concern considering that that he's up there in age and any injury can happen. So I just I just hope that LeBron can stay healthy. That's all I say.
yeah. I hope so too.
Right. But besides that, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is very interesting to me. We're going into I guess into another direction. Um, so how can I say it? Basically, everybody thought that one day San Antonio Spurs assistant coach Becky Hammond will be the first female coach in the NBA, which is still possible in my opinion. I mean, I saw
Yeah,
a lot of people complaining about it yesterday,
yeah,
but she decided to sign, but she got an offer from the Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA to be their next head coach. For people who may not be familiar with the WNBA, the Las Vegas Aces are basically a contender led by Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Liz Cambage, a few other teams or a few other players as well. But they have underachieved over the last few years, including this past year when they lost in the semifinals to the Phoenix Mercury. So obviously the previous head coach Bill Laimbeer is out. Now Becky Hammond is in. I'm not sure how other people feel, but I'm very excited. I feel like this hiring is definitely going to help elevate the Aces at another level. I feel like Asia Wilson would probably have another MVP year. What do you think?
yeah. I think it's a good hire. A week or so ago, when the rumors were floating around, I didn't think she would. I didn't think she would coach in the WNBA, but I think she figures that. I think in her mind she figuring she never gonna get a job in the NBA if it didn't happen this year. She's like, "What's more do I have to do?" So
That's true.
I think she go to WNBA. They got some talent. Got some talent on that team, and I think she can help them get to the next level. I think Bill Laimbeer he's a great coach, but his old school mentality, he kind of ran some of them players into ground and playoff time come, they all tired and burnt out because they ain't got don't use this bench much. Like I remember in 2019, the Aces they had a great team and
Yeah, they
but
definitely.
they just fell apart in the playoffs. Like was losing by like 10 and 15 points. Like wow, they're just tired. I think with Hammond on board, it's definitely going to be. They're definitely going to be one of the most popular teams.
Right. And
Um,
basically, like, like when you explaining how in 2019 they were like having those type of losses. I mean, even throughout this year, like,
yeah,
they had a few of those losses as well. I mean, particularly when they were playing against Phoenix and they had that bad game, or actually no, games 2 and 3 they got blown out,
yeah,
particularly in game 3 when they got destroyed
yeah,
like 20 plus points. But that, I mean, even like, this previous year, like the Aces, to me, like they had the talent, but for some reason it was like, could you really believe in them? I mean, of course you could believe in them, especially when you have a player
yeah,
like Asia Wilson, of her caliber, an MVP
yeah,
candidate or a former MVP in the league. And then of course, having Kelsey Plum back, being able to be that being able to be that sixth man off the bench.
yeah,
I mean, that definitely brought another energy to the team. But the Aces definitely did have their inconsistencies throughout the stretch of the year. So that was why for me I was like, I mean this team is good, this team is great, but can they really, find that niche in the playoffs and be able to turn it around? And I mean, you even saw it in the postseason, especially against Phoenix. They had that dominant game 1,
yeah,
got blown out in games 2 and 3. I think Tarasi had like 40 points in that game too. I can't remember the exact stat, but you know, for this team, I mean, basically, for this team to have like this much talent and to still not even like, be able to like, eclipse that championship. I mean, to
yeah,
me, it's just kind of uncalled for. So, obviously having a coach like Becky Hammond who's been in the league before and who understands, how to win, I feel like, this will definitely take them to that next level.
yeah. Let's probably bring some of those Spurs plays over too. That definitely would help with
Oh yeah,
Asia
definitely.
Wilson. Yeah, and they probably gonna shoot a lot more threes now. Ben Lambert didn't believe in the three ball. They hardly ever shot threes. I think that was a factor that hurt them as well too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of like what you said. I mean, that old school mentality. I mean, Bill.
yeah,
I mean, Bill. I mean, Bill's a great coach. Bill's a
yeah.
championship coach. He won with the Shock.
Shot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about a few decades ago. So I mean, he definitely has like championship a championship resume. Of course, being in the NBA and then of course being a coach as well. But when the game is evolving and the game is changing, like you definitely have to
yeah,
make your adjustments. So
yeah,
and I mean, you even saw it on social media that Asia and Bill that they had a pretty
yeah,
a pretty good relationship. But at the end of the day, winning is all that
yeah.
matters. So I'm not. So I wasn't too upset with the Aces going in a new direction.
And plus, Bill still be around anyway. He's supposed to be helping with the roster, helping with the
Oh,
roster as a
really?
consultant. Yeah, that's what they said.
That's interesting. So, like, I wanted to ask you, like, you think with Liz being a free agent, do you see her possibly staying with the Aces, or could she go somewhere else?
I don't know if Lambert's involved with the roster still and got a heavy input. She definitely could be back because them two they love each other. So I mean, I, I think it could work, but I don't know if they. I don't know how Hammond feel about that though.
That's true. I don't know. It's like
Yeah,
obviously Liz, like in my opinion, Liz is very talented.
yeah,
Obviously, being able to like be creative on both ends of the floor, but I definitely saw her struggle a little bit in that Phoenix series. So
yeah,
I don't know if I don't know if that series could possibly drop her value, but whenever she is healthy,
yeah,
she means a lot to this Aces team, especially with her length and her size and her ability
yeah,
to stretch the floor and even and play inside and out.
yeah,
So I just hope that she can stay because I do feel like she's a great compliment to Asia in that front court. So I'm definitely hoping that she
yeah.
can stay. But I was hearing some rumors that if not, that she could join Atlanta. I don't know how true that is. I think I saw a report about that, but that'd be interesting as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of free agents a lot of free agents in the WNBA. I was looking at the free agents today. It was like, man, Brianna Stewart a free agent,
Hmm.
Aja Wilson a free agent, but she's restricted, so they definitely would
Yeah.
match any offer she would have. But yes, a lot of free agents could be possibly a lot of movement. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's a fact. So obviously, I mean, congrats to Becky Hammond being able to get that coaching position. A lot of people were like kind of bashing her for not being able to get in the NBA or like be on an NBA roster, but I mean, it's kind of difficult, I mean, especially as a woman
Yeah.
trying to become the first ever NBA coach now, or the first ever female NBA coach now. In my opinion, I still think it can happen now. In years down the line, I think that people just have to stay a little bit patient. But I
Especially if
think,
she go to Vegas and win a couple championships.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, if that happens within like the next like 3 to 5 years, oh
yeah,
my god, I mean, I'm sure teams will be picking up that phone and trying to give her a call. But I think besides that, I mean, I definitely like this move for the Aces. It's
yeah.
definitely a
But
new direction for them.
yeah, it's also big for a WNBA to get a high profile coach like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, if she's successful, it could open the door for like Teresa Weatherspoon might want to
Oh
come
yeah,
with
definitely.
like that.
I think she's with the Pelicans right now, isn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I would definitely I would definitely love to see her in the league too. I think the W needs more of like player or like former player head coaches, kind of like what the
yeah,
NBA has. I feel like
yeah,
with that they'll be able to connect with the players just a little bit more. But
yeah.
hopefully we see more of that down the line. But we're going to transition back to the NBA. This is a team that I wanted to talk about in particular because I read a stat yesterday. This team practically had a very horrible December, which I mean is pretty bad for them considering that they do have an elite star on their team. The Portland Trailblazers obviously coming into this year, the hiring of Chauncey Billups. In my opinion, I definitely did not see Portland really getting anywhere. Me personally, I want Dame to leave, but I don't think Dame will probably end up going anywhere. He seems like he has a pretty good relationship with Chauncey, so I don't know. Maybe those two will try to figure something out together. But the Blazers for the month of December went 2-11, which includes the last night's loss to the Lakers, which is pretty horrible. Especially a team like with talents like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So
Yeah.
like, I want to ask you, Lamar, like, what do you think, or like, what do you see the future is for Portland going forward? Like, what I'm saying, especially when you have two talented players in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum.
Uh, it's tough to say. I mean, like somebody, I think I think they should try to maybe move McCullum and see what they can get for him because I like McCullum, but it ain't working what they doing in Portland. I mean, they got they try to make moves around him to surround him with players, but the players don't step up. Like they picked up Larry Nance Jr. and he ain't doing much of nothing, only averaging like 7 points a game. Then you got
Yes,
I still think even though Norman Powell playing pretty good, I still think they made a mistake getting rid of Gary Trent Jr.
I agree. Honestly,
Yeah,
I definitely agree. And I mean, the crazy thing is, like, when that trade went down, people were like saying, "Oh, like Norman Powell, he's a champion." And all that. I mean, I get it, but it's like when you have a young caliber player
yeah,
like Gary Trent Jr., especially with this team, trying to win a championship or trying to at least have championship aspirations. I feel like he's a big key for that. He's definitely better overall as far as being on both ends than Norman Powell will ever be. So I definitely didn't like the trade. And I mean, even though Norman Powell had a good stretch last year, with this team, especially in the playoffs and everything, but I always knew that losing Gary Trent was going to be a huge piece because if you remember last year, like there was a stretch last year where CJ McCollum was out for like I want to say like a good
yeah,
month or a month and a half, and alongside Dame, Gary Trent Jr. was that second best player for a little while. So
yeah. That's what I even ended up writing a piece about Gary Trent Jr. doing
during that stretch,
doing that stretch. Yeah, I was.
it's crazy though because I mean it's like especially like when you're having a good stretch with a team, basically being the second best player, and then obviously getting traded like probably a month later. I mean I don't know. I mean it's just crazy to me. Like I don't know what direction Portland is going in. Obviously Dame is getting up there in age. This is his 10th year. I definitely agree with you. There were rumors that were sparking about a Ben Simmons trade. I don't know if that'll happen now, especially considering that if you are going to try to trade for Ben Simmons, I'm sure Philly's going to ask for a lot, and I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know if Portland has any picks that they'll be able to give them, but I do know, like, if that were to happen, CJ is definitely going to be in there. Maybe a guy like Larry Nance will probably be in that conversation as well. Anthony Simons. So if Portland, I mean, obviously apparently Dame has expressed that he did want Ben Simmons. So that's why, to me, I'm kind of like, not understanding how Portland hasn't really, like, been aggressive to, to at least making it happen, considering the team is, flat out garbage right now. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, Portland's just kind of a Portland just kind of like, in a weird position right now, which they always have been over the past like
yeah,
7, 8 years. To me, I just really want the best for Damian Lillard, and
yeah.
I just don't think that is in Portland.
Yeah, I don't think so too. I mean, they struggling this year, and they come back. They don't get this fixed by next year. Then I think he's gonna have to ask for a trade. I know he ain't gonna want to, but it's gonna be like he's gonna have to look himself in the mirror and be like, man, we can't do nothing up here.
And that's the thing too, is like, what I'm saying? Like, the thing is, like, he knows, like, he may not ever admit it, but he knows with like the roster that he has, he's never going to win a championship with Portland. Like, he may never vocally say it, but he knows deep down inside. So that's why,
Yeah.
I just don't understand
And I
why.
think, yeah, he don't want to be, and he also don't think he want to be that guy who's saying, "Oh, I'm always going to be important," and then turn around and like I'm on out. He don't want to be known as that hypocrite.
Right.
Yeah,
And I mean, I get it. Like,
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure he looked up to like Kobe, Tim Duncan,
yeah,
Dirk, all these guys who spent their whole career with one team. But, even like Kobe always had a contending team. Tim Duncan always had a contending team.
yeah,
Dirk, even though he only has one ring, always had a contending team. Portland's gotten to the playoffs every year, but it's like Portland has never really been a true contender, in my opinion. I mean, I know they made the conference finals that one year against Golden State, but
yeah,
besides that, it's always been first round exits. So
yeah,
for me, if I'm Damian Lillard, especially being in my 10th year, I want to say he is about 30, 31 years old. Like, what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, I think he's wasting his prime years in Portland. I'm not mad at him for wanting to stay loyal, but at the end of the
yeah,
day, if the front office and the franchise is not loyal to you, then you got to make a decision.
yeah.
So, obviously Portland being or going 2-11 in December. I'm not sure. Hang on. I'm gonna check on my phone to see like where exactly they are in the West. I want to say they're probably around like the 10th seed or probably a little bit lower. Let me double check. Actually, they're number 13. They're 13-22 on the year, and I mean, I get it. Like, CJ's missed a few, or had missed a good stretch of the year.
Yeah, they got hit with COVID.
Yeah, they got hit with COVID. Dame missed a good amount of games as well. But this Portland team, besides those two guys, is really not that good, and I think everybody knows this. So for them to be the 13th seed in the West and being 9 games under 500, I mean, I don't think that should be I don't think that should be a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, not at all.
But I mean, besides that, Portland's definitely in a huge hole. But we're definitely going to transition into one of our last topics, and it's basically, I mean, this is basically something fun that I wanted to do. Obviously we're in the new year. We're in January. I mean, the one thing that I always say is that the NBA doesn't really get it. Look, in my opinion, the NBA doesn't really get as exciting until Christmas time and afterwards. I mean, obviously, those first few months of the year, like, teams are off. Some teams are off to a hot start. Some teams are still trying to find that rhythm. Some teams are really trying to get their legs underneath them. So sometimes you really can't see like which team is like a true contender. So now coming into January, we're really going to especially with the playoffs approaching soon, we're really going to see which team is really built for a championship and who's not. So
Yeah,
going to obviously going into this new calendar year, I mean, there are a lot of teams that we do see that could be contenders, but they're kind of up and down, struggling. Like what teams do you see like possibly that need to turn things around before the playoffs?
well, obviously the Lakers, but we've got into them already. But another team, the Atlanta Hawks.
I agree.
Everybody was pumped from last year, and they made that playoff run, and now they struggling. They're where the standings at? I had the standings up.
I want to say, hang on. as of right now, they are number 12. They're 16-19 on the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's still right in striking distance with the playoffs, but yeah, I expected more out of him. I expected him to be in the top four in the East. It seems
I
like they,
agree. I think when Michael did, or when Michael and I did our before the season episode, I want to say I had the Hawks as number 3 if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
So for them to be struggling, and I mean I get it, like I mean the Hawks are just like any team. They've been hit with injuries, they've been hit with health and safety protocols. Trae Young actually just got back with the team probably about a few games ago
yeah,
after being in health and safety protocols, but obviously that's no excuse because I mean even early in the season, like late October, November, the Hawks were struggling then. So it's kind of tough because it's like, coming into this year, you obviously look at last year and say, like, was last year a fluke when they got to the conference finals?
yeah,
I personally thought that, that they earned their way there, but whenever, like, you see that type of run last year and then, of course, you come into this year and then you struggle, it definitely does look like a fluke. And I mean,
yeah,
the reason why I'm so high on the Hawks is because they have so much talent. Like, obviously,
yeah,
besides Trae Young, they got guys like John Collins, Cam Reddish is a pretty solid guy, Bogdanovich, Kevin Herter, Capella. So I mean, like, when you look at this roster, and then of course they have a really good coach in Nate McMillan, this
yeah,
team should be better than what they are. So for the Hawks to be number 12 in the East, which I mean, we still have enough time to be able to turn things around, but
yeah,
for them to come into January 3 games under 500, I mean, it's honestly surprising to me considering the year that they had or the postseason that they had last year.
yeah. I agree. They still got time to get together. They only 3 games back of the three, 1 game back of the 8th spot in the loss column. But yeah, so still plenty of time.
Right.
Yeah,
But one of the teams that I want to say that needs to turn it around, which I hope they do, is the Celtics.
yeah,
Um, obviously, I mean, this dates back last year for me. Is that Boston? Obviously, when they have Tatum and Brown, they're automatically going to be a playoff team or a team that has a shot at being playoff bound. But for me, like, even dating back last year, like, with a lot of their offseason acquisitions, like, it wasn't enough in my opinion to be in the same conversation as teams like Brooklyn, Milwaukee, obviously Philly, and then of course Miami. So coming into this year is kind of the same story. And I mean, I get it. Jaylen Brown missed time, or Jaylen Brown started the season coming off of COVID, and then of course missing a lot of games to the hamstring injury. And then of course Tatum's missing some time as well. So they're obviously kind of in the same position as the Lakers. With so many guys missing a lot of time, they can't really find chemistry with one another. So it's like you get that, but the Celtics should at least still be like a top contender in the East. I mean, in my opinion, they should at least be a 4 seed concerning the team that they have right now. They're number 9. They're right in front of New York as far
yeah,
as being in that playing spot. So I'm hoping all I'm hoping for the Celtics is just is to just stay healthy. I honestly wish that come down the trade deadline they can at least at least get a playmaker for the team because
yeah.
I feel like
What I was about to say, they need a point guard that can distribute the basketball.
exactly, because I mean, honestly, like when you look at Tatum and Brown's career, like they I don't think they really ever played with like a true playmaker.
Yeah,
Isaiah Thomas wasn't a true playmaker. Kyrie wasn't a true playmaker. Kemba Walker wasn't a true playmaker. And now you have Dennis Schroeder and Marcus Smart being a point guard. Those guys aren't playmakers as well. So
yeah. I think they should have been hitting up the Lakers for Rondo, like the
true.
if,
That is true. That honestly probably would have been a better move in my opinion, than the
yeah,
Cavs. I mean, obviously, with Rubio being out for the year,
yeah,
the Cavs had to make a move. So I'm definitely not mad at them for doing it. But I definitely would have liked Rondo having that, or being on that Celtic team with Tatum or Brown. I definitely feel like it would have at least elevated them.
yeah, because he top high basketball IQ and he gonna get them the ball where they most comfortable at.
Exactly. And I mean, I get it. Like, I understand that Rondo is up there in age, but, you don't really need anything else out of him than to just, run the floor. And I mean, which we have seen on many occasions that he's very capable of doing. So, that definitely should have been a move that that the Celtics should have made, at least, acquiring Rondo or some, or at least some playmaker. But to me, going into this year, I just hope that they can stay healthy so they can at least be like, or so they can at least be a 6 seed in the East, in my opinion. I just feel like, when you have two dynamic players like Tatum and Brown, you should at least be like, in like, one of those top 6 seeds, in my opinion. But besides the Celtics, I'm definitely going to say the Knicks are another team that should be turning things around. Obviously, they just brought back Kemba Walker, and Kemba Walker had a good stretch. But guys like Julius Randle, who are continuing to struggle, RJ Barrett has had his struggles as well. The Knicks are definitely like, I mean, the Knicks are probably in that same position, or in that same position that the Hawks are in. Considering the year that they had last year, and then coming into this year not exceeding expectations. So, is this another team that's considered a fluke? I would hope not, but the Knicks are definitely another team that need to turn things around.
Yeah, they need to turn around. I expected a lot more from them this year too. Not playing good as defense as they did last year.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
Not at all. And it's crazy too because last year they didn't have Mitchell Robinson. I mean, and especially with the defensive mind that he is, I thought coming into this year, with him being healthy, that they would be able to elevate, especially when you have Mitchell Robinson being the starting center, and then the backup center is Nerlens Noel, who is known for his defense. So I don't know, it's like for the Knicks to not be one of the top defensive teams this year, especially with the defensive season that they had last year, is pretty surprising to me. But I don't know. It's like like I've been defending Julius Randle, especially like over the past off season, because I mean obviously he had that bad series against the Hawks in the first round. A lot of people were saying that that he's not a true number one option, but what I was saying was for people to just stay patient with him, considering that was his first ever taste of the playoffs, and obviously he underperformed, but then again, it's like coming into this year, like I'm not gonna say he's been bad, but he definitely has not been the same Julius Randle that we saw last year.
Yeah, he's only shooting 41% from the field, averaging a double-double though, and also 5 assists. But yeah, RJ Barrett, he's playing all right, but they see with the Knicks, I think they're banking on players taking that next step, and they haven't really took that next step yet.
Right, and that's the thing too, because those are two talented guys right there. So I don't know. I mean, it's just so tough. And then of course, with Derrick Rose, going into or having that surgery, and then of course him missing significant time also doesn't help either. Because I mean, he's definitely another guy that brings the energy off the bench. So I mean, it's definitely another loss for them. But coming into January, the Knicks still have enough time. I mean, it's like I said, I mean they're right behind Boston as the 10th seed, so at least they are still in the play-in tournament. But with this Knicks team, you definitely expected more out of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, and then of course he mentioned Atlanta. How do you feel about Dallas? Can Dallas possibly turn things around?
Yeah, they got Luka, so they always got a shot.
That's true.
It seems like they always missing a piece or two every year that they can't that they never can get that piece they need to get them over the hump.
And that's the thing too, because even though Kristaps Porzingis is having a better year than he did last year, I just still don't believe that I just still don't believe that he and Luka can at least coexist. I'm not gonna say that he's the wrong fit for Dallas, but when you have a guy like Luka Doncic, like I don't know. I mean, it just seems like those two cannot really coexist, because it's like whenever Luka and Porzingis are playing together, like Porzingis just doesn't, or in my opinion, like Porzingis just doesn't bring the maximum effort that he needs to. But then whenever Luka's out, that's when we'll see him have those monster games. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a confidence issue with Porzingis, but he's definitely not, in my opinion, the right fit alongside Luka. So I think that's one thing about Dallas that they do need, is probably another co-star alongside Luka Doncic.
Yeah, that's what they need.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, Dallas is up there. I want to say the Clippers too, but it's like the Clippers, with them missing Paul George now for a good amount of time. I don't know exactly where they'll be. Actually, here I want to check where they stand in the West, because the Clippers have been one of the underrated teams in my opinion. throughout this year. The Clippers they're actually 1 game ahead or 2 games ahead of the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken. They're actually the 6th seed right now. In my opinion, Paul George was actually having a pretty solid year. I'm not gonna say he was having an MVP year, but he was definitely having a pretty solid year, especially being able to transition as that number 1 option, because I'm sure many believe that Kawhi is probably not going to come back this year. Yeah. So for him to be able to do what he's doing with the pieces that he have around him and Reggie Jackson, obviously they got Ibaka back, so that's definitely that's definitely a huge boost for them. Guys like Eric Bledsoe and others. So for them to be a 6th seed, considering the circumstances that they have right now, it's pretty remarkable to me.
Yeah, and they got a big win tonight over the Nets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like with Paul George being out, it's kind of like working this team go. But if they can continue to have solid stretches the way that they're having, then they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right, but I think that's all that I have today. You have anything else?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. This is my first time actually hosting the show myself. Normally Michael does all the talking, and then I just kind of follow his lead. Obviously, like I said earlier, he's out due to personal reasons. Hopefully, he will be back next week. I'm not 100% sure, but you'll just have to tune in. But Lamar, go ahead and shout yourself out. Whatever you're working on and everything.
Hit me up on Twitter at RaiderWay3, and I write for numerous sites, and most of my articles are posted on my Twitter page.
Definitely check that out. He just recently wrote an article on the Becky Hammond signing, so make sure to check that out. As y'all all know, follow me on Twitter at NickAndreATR. Check out the link tree in the bio. You'll see everything from podcast articles, you name it. But besides that, make sure to tune in next week. We will be back with, especially, with everything kind of getting back to normal, especially, with the holidays kind of transitioning out, we'll definitely be more in tune with what's going on. So just, make sure to check us out next week. Shout out to everybody who's checking us out on YouTube. Shout out to everybody who's checking us out on Colorcast. We definitely appreciate the support. Shout out to Unwrapped Sports. And besides that, man, we'll catch you guys next week.